What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys my review for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Manga chapter number 26. So, to kick things off, the chapter is titled Those Like-Minded, and we do have a solo cover this month of Momoshiki, which I thought was pretty cool. You guys know the drill. Ikimoto usually is pretty damn good with the solo covers, so another good one added to his tally right there. So this chapter kicks off with Himawari happy that Enojin pulled up and brought her some honey that's usually sold out. And as Enojin is leaving, Kashin Koji starts talking to Enojin through his toad. And so he basically says, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And the first question he ends up asking him is if he has romantic feelings for Himawari. And Enojin's reaction to this was blushing, so that was indicating, an easy yes to Kashin Koji right there. He then asks if Enojin wants to protect her, and he responds by saying, of course. And then Koji says to come with him if you want to know more. So, if you guys were wondering, and if anyone had any doubts, that confirms that Enojin does like Himawari. That's something I feel like makes sense with especially how, even if you look at the anime, they gave Enojin and Himawari a couple of, episodes where there was just some like nice little moments. So I feel like at the very least that they've definitely had enough screen time anime wise to imply maybe something like this would have happened in a time skip down the line. So, me personally, I don't really have too much more thoughts on it. Some people I see really, really like it. Some people are indifferent. Some people, I think I've seen a few people saying they don't like it. I'm kind of more on like that side of indifferent, or it's cool, nothing too much more really to say at the moment than that for me. I will still say, don't really like Enojin's haircut still, for this time skip design, especially if he's going to start getting more screen time now. Hopefully he gets a new cut. But I have gotten more used to the design. It's not as bad as when I first saw it, but still not like my favorite design, Anyway, moving on. Koji reverse summons him and reveals his identity to him. This is the first time, Enojin's seeing Koji without his mask, and he realizes, oh, this is a remnant of Kara. Boruto then speaks from behind him as well and says that you can't leave on your own from this place. This place has no physical exit, so don't think of getting any ideas. He also says not to worry. We'll send you back once we're done talking with you. And the panels Boruto's saying this look pretty cool. Boruto's basically aura farming over here. And we know at this point, that's just Boruto's thing. Since chapter 1 of 2 Blue Vortex, he's definitely been delivering on that front. We then cut over to the Shinju, and a book is making Juro cry. He also then mentions that he's gained a great deal of experience thanks to Matsuri's whole experience with Konohamaru. Hidari pretty much finds all that intriguing. Meanwhile, we got Mamushi over here who is reading an adult magazine. That tells you a little bit about his character. And he also says he realized why his instinct chose Ada. And he pretty much says he wants to devour her for control and to make her genetic info his. So maybe to have that OP kind of ability where he would be able to basically draw in people attracted to him, I guess, is what he's trying to go for. But that would be a crazy ability for Shinju to acquire. Because if one of these, divine tree creatures get that, that could be crazy if they're going to start trying to deal with some potential opponents. He also says he doesn't care for love, but thinks them as divine species should thrive more. So I guess his idea is to further advance that a little bit. And pretty much that was it for the Shinju this chapter. We then cut to Shikamaru. We got a cool shot of him walking with the Hokage cloak. And we got Koji pretty much contacting him through Enojin. And Shikamaru's asking if they can talk later. He has a lot on his mind. But Koji says it's exactly about that. Worst case scenario, you may end up losing your position as Hokage. Shikamaru's like, oh man, this is, basically Shikamaru saying, what a drag. And he then walks into a room with the elders in Konohamaru where Lord Kobo, the Daima's personal chamberlain, is also there. So the elders in Kobo are questioning Shikamaru's reasoning to carry out this recent mission on, his own without really consulting. Shikamaru says that it was based on intel and that the Shinju aren't a negotiating type. They ask from who they got the intel from. One of the elders asked Shikamaru, but Shikamaru refused to say and said not saying it is best for everyone's safety. He also said he followed his intuition with the resolve to take full responsibility in the case that this mission failed. The elders said, aside from the content of the intel, they're concerned about the source and question if it's from the traitor Boruto. One of them says, and this is the lady elder, I honestly don't know their names. I knew them at one point, but I honestly don't care to learn them again just because I really don't like these two elders. So I don't even think they really deserve that kind of respect. They don't even mention their names like that in the story. So, like right now I'm saying, but regardless, one of them is saying that there's rumors that Boruto's in leagues with the Divine Trees and that he has a plan to destroy Konoha from within. And this is what I'm saying. Where is she getting this rumor from? Like, I get it. They gotta try making Boruto look bad, especially because in their eyes, he killed Naruto and he's just a traitor. And we know that they've never been fond of, like, anything that arouses suspicion to begin with from even the Naruto days. So, just lines in with their character. Konohamaru jumps in and Shikamaru tries to stop him, but Koji says it's better if Konohamaru ends up getting scolded here instead of Shikamaru for, keeping his job. Konohamaru says Boruto saved his life last mission, that he believes Boruto has no intention of harming Konoha. This is a good, good stance by Konohamaru. I'm glad he's taking a stand here against these elders. The guy elder says, are you taking his side? And Konohamaru says, at the very least, they should hear Boruto out. The other elder, she ends up calling him an idiot and says that he's an undeniable felon who deserves to be eliminated. And she cites that he struck down a Hokage, which that part I'm not going to lie, it's valid. If you see it as, they took out probably one of the most beloved Hokage of all time, Naruto, it makes sense. But we know that, I know with them just as their characters, they're always trying to push, some of their own, suspicions and agendas as well. So that's why I'm not completely, on board with them. And of course, we as readers know that Boruto is not responsible. So next, Shikamaru tells Konohamaru enough as Konohamaru tries to respond again. Kobo then says that the mission appears successful at first glance, but if there's a mole in the village's inner circle communicating with the criminals, that would not be the case. So he has his suspicions. He then tells Sai to escort Konohamaru and that he'll question him himself. He also says to identify everyone who's had contact with Boruto and to spare no one. So this guy's pretty locked in right now, and he seems pretty determined to see if anybody's aligning themselves with Boruto pretty much. And he swears to expose whoever aided Boruto, even when initially fleeing his interrogation, because he feels like someone played a hand in that as well. So then we cut over to Enojin, who is now telling Koji and Boruto how many rules they just broke now at once. And Koji and Boruto pretty much respond by saying they have no choice but to be crafty, and that Enojin is now in collusion with them. Boruto says that they must conform to the enemy's methods for what they truly need. Enojin says having fought Jura, he knows that he has to have power and resolve in order to protect everyone. So at least Enojin's, not being dumb here. He knows that Jura's on a whole nother power level and that stuff like this has a necessity, even if it's breaking rules. Koji then questions Boruto if he offered Momoshiki a deal. Boruto says relax and that he'll hold up his end. So interesting lines there, because that's implying that Boruto and Momoshiki did come up with the deal after all, and I feel like it's something we're going to get in a flashback format at some point down the line, but as of right now, I don't think that we're going to be seeing exactly what the terms of the full deal were and whatnot. But if it's anything like where last chapter it was hinting at, it seems like Boruto would be willing to give up his body to Momoshiki if Jura were indeed to actually be taken out by Momoshiki's help. So we'll see if Boruto honors that, but that would be some pretty wild stuff if we do head that route. Koji then ends up saying that that's not an answer and he doesn't care for Boruto's attitude. Boruto says, right back at you. How many how many people were supposed to die during the sand mission? And Koji responds with, he merely guided things towards the most likely outcome for Sarada to awaken her Mangekyo in order to avoid a future where more are killed. So Koji's trying to justify it by saying it's better this way because more people could have died rather than the few that would have died in that mission perhaps, which seems like, it would be Konohamaru and Yodo maybe, or Yodo at the least. We know possibly Konohamaru because he was on the brink of death. We don't know if somehow he would have gotten out of that one or not, but I think he would have been my next guess just based off the circumstances he was in when Boruto did deal that final blow. But maybe in some alternate reality, Konohamaru's potential death happened in front of Sarada, and maybe that's how she, reawakened this Mangekyo to the fullest rather than Yodo. I mean, who knows what kind of possibilities Koji really saw in full. But he didn't expand on the fact, of who else might have died there. For all we know, it could have even been Mitsuki. We really don't know. But Boruto's definitely not messing with that, and I can kind of see this from both perspectives, honestly. They're on two sides of a different coin. Boruto especially wants Koji to be more transparent, but Koji probably didn't want to be transparent because if he was, Boruto would have rushed off to the battle, and Koji thought that that would be like a definite, loss of Boruto's life to Jura if that were the case. But back to the convo, Boruto just tells him, let's just move on from this. This is going nowhere. We then have a communication with Shikamaru again, who says that Konohamaru is currently being interrogated and that he may be next. Koji says to contact them immediately if anything changes, and that the next battle will go better if Shikamaru stays as Hokage. He then reveals the divine tree named Mamushi will appear in Konoha in 1 week from now. So he's pretty much dropping in that information and saying they have the best chances with Shikamaru, which I think makes sense because Shikamaru is the best strategist, I think we can safely say, in the village, long term especially. So that makes perfect sense of why he'd be Hokage. If someone else took over, let's say, such as like Sakura got appointed or Konohamaru got appointed, even though Sakura is really strong and Konohamaru is fairly strong too, Konohamaru's inexperience in that Hokage spot might hurt them a little bit there, and who knows what Sakura would exactly do too in that situation. I just feel like Shikamaru would be the route to go. I can see where Koji's coming from. Even if, let's say, Kakashi had came back into spot, and Kakashi is pretty damn smart, but would he be able to really pull something off too? Maybe what Koji's seeing could even be ability based in some sort of way if Shikamaru's directly involved. But just some more stuff to ponder upon. I definitely think that Shikamaru staying around though as the Hokage will definitely help, especially with Koji saying this. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, after that, Koji reveals that the target of Mamushi is Ada and says that he'll now tell him his abilities and how to deal with them. So Koji coming in with the hacks over here, just giving out these abilities and stuff, which is some cool info that they could definitely use in this battle. We then cut over to Ada, who's talking to Sarada and Sumire, and she basically asks Sarada when she'll profess her love to Boruto. Sarada says, "What do you mean when? Who says I'll even do that?" And then Sarada says she doesn't want to risk saying it wrong and making things weird between them. Ada pretty much calls her boring for that. And then she asks Sumire next, and Sumire says it all depends on timing, but knowing herself, she might just blurt it out and says she feels Sarada might do the same. So Ada definitely had a little bit of a better reaction to that. Sumire says what's most important is Boruto's feelings. And then Ada jumps in and says, sorry to break the mood, but you two aren't captivated by me, are you? And Daemon is watching from, afar in the room with, a classic, stare down, smug look. Not really smiling, but you could tell, Daemon just kind of looks annoying in general, and that's the kind of vibe he's getting there. He's just looking locked in. We do have a little quick one-page flashback to Shikamaru telling Sumire and Sarada to not be found out, that they aren't captivated, so that they can be the ones to take out Ada if absolutely needed at some point. Ada then says it's obvious. How else can you talk about liking someone other than me in front of me? And then Daemon starts moving, but Sarada activates her Mangekyo Sharingan. However, he ends up leaping over them and behind them and grabs both their necks. Daemon says, "You tried to do something with the Mangekyo, didn't you?" And then he says, "Whatever it is it's useless. If you die before you launch it, that's pretty much it. You're done." So the last line was, "If you die before you launch it, it's useless." That's pretty much more or less what he had said, and that's where the chapter ends, with the cliffhanger of him grabbing both their necks. I personally think this could be a fake out, because Ada might be happy to have more people by her now that can just be a little bit more honest about her feelings. But then again, Daemon might still really see them as a threat, so this could lead to another problem. One other way I could see this possibly being resolved is Kawaki appearing in and just saying something, because Ada will, at the end of the day, listen to Kawaki. So Kawaki might come in here and actually do something good and save them in a sense. I do think that's possible. But we'll see what route they head with everything in next month's chapter. But all in all, this was a good chapter. Probably in the ballpark of, I want to say, like, pretty good to borderline great. I say I lean towards pretty good more. Usually for me, a great chapter is something that's like 8 out of 10 or above. This chapter for me kind of hits that range of 7.5 to 8 out of 10. We did progress a lot in terms of story. I feel we do have the next battle set up, and we do have some political conflicts going on, which I think is cool stuff to see, because this is some of the stuff I feel like people wanted in Naruto at times too, and we did get it in Naruto for sure. But these are the kinds of things that I feel like are realistic to have in the story, so I'm glad that we did get it included. As much as I hate those elders, it's still a very realistic addition to the story, so I do appreciate that. And that aside, we got this whole stuff that happened with Ada, and then now Daemon pulling up on Sarada and Sumire. So we'll see what that leads to next month in chapter 27. But that's going to be it for my review. Let me know what you guys thought of everything in the comments below. And if you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. And as always, I hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.